This week, the Jem'Hadar and the Defiant crew make friends and murder people as we enjoy V'ger Please, a vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
I'm your co-host, and I'm ready to talk Star Trek. Peter.
I am also ready to talk Star Trek. We've got a second half of the episode to get into here for To the Death.
And why'd this take us 2 episodes? I mean, this is a pretty straightforward episode, and for anybody who's new and joining us, as we've had a plethora, these top of the season episodes or the introduction of new characters, stuff like To the Death season 4 episode 23, they are tent pole episodes that are introducing new things and showing us a lot deeper behind the curtain of mystery that the big bad meta plot has represented. And what a great way to do it than put the Starfleet crew parallel to the bad guys to accomplish something mutual and really give both sides, give the audience a chance to see the Jem'Hadar for what they really are and some deeper inner workings to the Dominion. And importantly with that, see how the Dominion reacts to seeing the other side of the curtain, how Starfleet works here. And again, the big kind of elevator pitch that I have on the interesting parts of the Jem'Hadar is that the Federation is able to pose this esoteric risk to the Dominion's rule because of what a post-scarcity utopia could look like to people who live in a fascist state of fear.
Obviously, with Weyoun being introduced in this episode, played by Jeffrey Combs, someone that even someone who's remained relatively unspoiled on Deep Space Nine, knew was a big character, was a big deal, lends to us wanting to take our time with it because he is so important. What he is important, and he's just now arriving on the scene here in late season 4. So there's a lot to do to kind of establish him as we move forward as one of the most primary visible antagonists on the show for what is going to be a deep and very serialized war plotline. And you and I, over the years, when we've taken time with these episodes, it's typically because there's just so much to discuss about the context of what's happening that makes it so interesting. Like most recently in this season, we spent extra time on Way of the Warrior, perhaps expectantly, given it was feature length. It introduced Worf. It brought the Klingons into conflict with the Federation for the first time in Berman era. And all of the decisions related to all of those things were even deeper than merely what was being done on camera. And it led to a lot of good discussion on our part. We did the same with Homefront and Paradise Lost, where talking about what does Earth government look like? What does Starfleet's relationship with that look like? What does Starfleet think of itself as a military organization? Is what Admiral Layton doing justifiable or not? In what ways are there discussion lines that we can take that explore these questions to the point where not only did we do 3 episodes on those 2 episodes, we then did another hour-long conversation with a YouTuber just to explore them, right? In much the same way, you're getting a lot of that here for the reasons you discussed, right? We're seeing the actual Jem'Hadar actually operate as a unit. We see kind of like their ranks, how they relate as soldiers, how they do their duty, how they conceive of themselves as a species. What are these Vorta? What are their role? What are their relationship with the Vorta? What does this mean as it relates to how the Dominion organizes itself? It's the first time we really get any solid information about any of that.
How cohesive is the Dominion as an organization versus what they have projected as an image to their enemies?
And on top of that, we're adding the introduction of a character that is going to show up many times throughout the rest of the show as the avatar, essentially, of the Dominion as an antagonistic force. Not solely, but primarily. And what everything that we learn about the Dominion through just how Weyoun acts, how he interacts with other people, what his fate is in this episode, and what that means for the fact that this isn't the last time we see him, and what that says about the Dominion and their capabilities, right? So it's not a surprise to me that we wound up an hour deep in this conversation and barely got done with Act 1, and I think it might still be a struggle for us to finish the rest of the episode in a single hour, but we'll do our best. Where we left off was right after the conversation that Weyoun and Sisko had one-on-one in the mess hall, where Weyoun's being a little playful. He's trying to crack jokes about giving Sisko ultimate power, and he ultimately at least conveys what appears to be truthful enough information about the threat that is presently being faced regarding the possession of an Iconian gateway by a breakaway sect of Jem'Hadar. It's really well structured because, as we're about to find out in the next scene, like the Iconian gateway is a real alpha level threat for the Dominion to have possession of. Their willingness to blow up something that would really deeply facilitate their ability to conquer the entirety of the galaxy demonstrates that they really don't have control of the situation, and it is actually important for them to get control of it through destroying it.
That's a great point, because my question through this entire thing last episode was like, how do you trust anything that's being said? You have the Jem'Hadar, which are genetically engineered to be loyal, and they are on a drug addiction regimen, and they are put in a lifestyle that is all focused on obedience. And you have Weyoun, who could contact the Jem'Hadar or the Dominion to get additional resources out to, like, A, it's implausible that these guys would go rogue at this level. B, why would you work with Starfleet when you could just call more people? Like, I needed Weyoun to have culpability in these guys going rogue somehow, which certainly I could see. Like, if he gets zapped at the end of this thing, like, his subordinates do not like him. And if he had authority over the Iconian Gateway project, like, sure, I could see that insurrection. But what you just said, by the end of this episode, the Iconian Gateway is for sure destroyed. That is a massive artifact of immeasurable power to the mission statement of the Dominion. And for them to legit give it up, I think it proves to me, someone who hasn't seen any of this stuff, that this is all, we can take this situation at face value and all the implications therein. Specifically, these Jem'Hadar are not as loyal as we had been led to believe over the course of several very potent episodes.
Yeah, if you're willing to give up an essentially galaxy-wide I win button because you are genuinely afraid that if this gets into the hands of your super soldiers that they're going to fuck everything up and take over the entirety of the Dominion, then I believe you, right? Like, that this is too big a thing for you to, right out of the gate, to say, like, no, the mission is to destroy this thing. There's no tension on that, right? The episode does not entertain the idea that, like, secretly the Dominion is going to use the Federation crew to kill the Jem'Hadar so that, like, the loyal Jem'Hadar and the Vorta can get control of it again and use it. That is not part of the plot in the slightest. In fact, when Weyoun shows up at the end and gets blasted into oblivion, it's so that he can go make sure it's been destroyed. That's actually, like, I'm here to make sure it's super exploded. And that makes everything very credible. Because if you're the Federation, and then this is the scene we're going to get into, they already know about this. They already know what it's capable of, and destroying it is something that the Federation has already authorized once. So that's where we pick up, is after Sisko, like, does the death row Sisko stare on Weyoun and has a little, I agree, to intimidate him. We're having the senior officer briefing scene, except we're doing it on the bridge.
Real quick, before we go deeper, speaking to the rebellion, and again, these guys are living this Spartan lifestyle of there's no women, all we do is train and kill. We don't sleep because B, our drug addiction, which we also don't eat. And that's a scene we're going to get here in a second, but, like, there's no joy of food. There's no joy of women. There's no joy of downtime. We are addicted to a drug. We are living the Spartan military 24/7 lifestyle. And also we have been genetically engineered to, what was the one where they found the birthing pod kid and then Odo adopts him?
Yeah. I mean, remember that was season 3.
All of that is instinctual knowledge and obedience, right? And even with all that, these guys are still able to go rogue. And I like the story that tells about what the difference is between ruling through fear and oppression and ruling through consensus, or whatever you want to call the Federation, democracy.
Earlier in the season, when we saw the rogue Jem'Hadar that were trying to cure themselves of their addiction to white, we saw shades of this, where their first, who was the one who had been so alleviated of his addiction, was desperate to help his comrades, because while they're all very well engineered to be soldiers, because they still have cognition and free will, they still have bonds of brotherhood with each other that lead to this outcome. Like, why did that happen? Because the first that was cured wanted to make sure the rest of his people were cured, because he knows, like, this is something where we're being controlled. I have free will. I can understand my environment. I have strong enough cognition that I know I am chained essentially by this debilitating addiction to this thing that's being provided by a central source. If this were not the case, we could have agency, right? And the reason the founders can't solve for this and still retain soldiers who are capable of the things the Jem'Hadar are capable of. They need to be able to think, they need to be able to observe, they need to be able to make decisions independently of a overarching command and control function, because the founders clearly don't actually like doing that, which is why the Vorta exist, is imperfect as they seem to be at the job. And in the same way, that episode then makes this one make sense. Like, I already know that it's possible for these guys to rebel because they understand what they are. Some of them choose to remain loyal because they have a religious belief in the founders, which gets expressed, like you mentioned last week, with a fantastic line here later on in the episode. But they are aware. They are self-aware. They know what's up. You cannot fool them. And that makes them far more interesting as antagonists. They're not just like biomachines. They're not the Borg. They actually have the ability to think and make decisions for themselves, even if those decisions end up being tragic and self-defeating for them.
That's a good point, too. Like, the Borg have terrible power under a lockstep unified focus. And the Jem'Hadar, you say that you think the Dominion threat is that the Dominion could have won against the Borg. Like, that is martially how impressive they are. You have the Jem'Hadar as the most bluntest part of that weapon that can hit the hardest, but it does not have a perfect loyalty. So it represents a risk to not only the target, but the person, the founders wielding it.
Right, which is why they're addicted to the white in the first place. Is that the founders are not lacking awareness, right? Like, if we don't put a firm chain of control that we have, on them, then we are inviting chaos, because eventually they're going to assert their desire for self-determination because they're too smart.
So on one hand, you've got this organization of fear that finds a fantastic technology, and when given an opportunity, its own organization goes rogue in an attempt to steal it and profit from it. In this case, it's the Jem'Hadar wanting to go rogue to spread a rebellion or whatever. Versus if this was Starfleet and everybody was there by choice and unified under a principle of exploration and brotherhood and whatever, and they would have found the Iconian Gateway, it'd be like, okay, cool. Let's bring in all the organization resources. Let's research this. Let's profit from it as a group. And like, just the difference in power and growth and security that, like, those two within the world of Star Trek, the leadership style of fear versus collaboration, and like what that represents in here.
Right. Like, you could foresee a circumstance like if there was an Iconian Gateway that was found in like firm Federation space, right? Because the previous episode from TNG had it found in like the neutral zone or whatever.
Of course.
They had to blow it up because they're Romulans. Okay, it's found in Federation space. There's no threat to like it falling in anybody else's hands. You can see a circumstance where the Federation would like invite the other powers of the galaxy to like, we will control for this being, we have no intention of using this for military purposes, and we never will. We'll even create a circumstance where you all will get to observe and be part of scientific research as it relates to using this as a guarantor so that you know we won't do it. Like, even though all of you who are technically either my antagonists or my neighbors or someone that I may or may not have good relationships with, because we're the Federation and because we so sincerely hold to these higher ideals as it relates to how we operate, we will guarantee the fact that we won't use this for military purposes by allowing you to be part of the experience. Like that's the difference. Is I could definitely see that happening. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what would happen, right? And
I mean, it happened in TNG plenty of times. Hey, here's a cool solar flare thing, and there's going to be a conference, and then wouldn't you know it, one scientist is killing other scientists, and now we've got a murder mystery. But like, yeah, that's all par for the course, man. So back in the mess hall, you got
not the mess hall. They're on the bridge. We have the scene after Wayoon and Sisko wrap up in the mess hall is the senior officer conference on the bridge, and I really want to talk about that because that's first where Worf is like, "Hey, quick info download. I was there for the Iconian Gateway mission. We blew that shit up. Starfleet Command supported our decision because you can't let this into the wrong hands. So the idea of us blowing this up, that's already accepted as something worth our time, right? Which is really cool use of Worf. Bridge the gap. Use this plot line from before. I literally have first person experience with it. Eliminates all doubt, right?
how convenient.
It's like they wrote it knowing they could do that.
Well, I mean, and at the same time, even if Worf wasn't there, O'Brien could be like, "Oh yeah, we encountered one of these things." Everybody knew command simple. Like you could have the same dialogue tree, but having like Worf, I was actually on the away team. Like, how convenient.
The rest of the conversation, again, like the way it's framed, they're on the bridge, it's cramped. Everyone's like leaning against stuff, and the conversation is very reminiscent of what we saw in Way of the Warrior, where we're really having a talk about what's happening, right? What are we getting ourselves into? What are we about to do? It's much more casual than like the strict briefing process that Picard would go through with senior management. This is us kind of like figuring this out. The decision, in a way, has already been made. We kind of have to blow this up. We don't have much of a choice but to work with the Jem'Hadar to do it because they're the only ones who know where it is. So it's really a discussion of what do they know? How are we going to approach the mission? How are we going to work with them? And what's the path forward? I love the sort of like, you wouldn't see Geordi cracking wise about having a get to know you dinner after the briefing and that sort of thing. It's like, it's a very specific pattern to Deep Space Nine where like O'Brien is saying that. And
He's not an officer, he's enlisted.
And everyone's kind of on the same page. Like Odo is also like chiming in about this, trying to provide what information that he has about how all of this operates and what he knows about the Dominion. He's like, I'm kind of at a loss, right? Like, I don't know my people particularly well. That's part of my problem. It's another one of those moments that really separates Deep Space Nine as a show versus what you might see in TNG or Voyager or Enterprise. In that there is a sort of informality in these conversations that feels very like lived in and genuine, while still not breaking from the fact that, you know, we are establishing them as more or less military officers, which we get a lot of out of Sisko in this episode and how he deals with people and how he orients his command authority over the course of the runtime. It's after that Sisko summons the first to confront him in his ready room.
So the first, what did we say that guy was from previously?
He is Clarence Williams III. He is a big TV actor from the 80s and 90s. You know, he was in a lot of blaxploitation stuff like I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker.
That's right. Yeah.
It's just one of those guy actors that appeared in a lot of different things. He was, I think, most famously the guy with the afro from the Mod Squad from the 70s. I think like that's probably his big role. But he was a worker for his whole career.
How do you feel about him as a comparison to Sisko?
I love it. It's the best part of the episode. Really, when you think about it, this episode is about Sisko having to establish humans as a genuine threat that has to be dealt with some amount of deference and respect to the Jem'Hadar through how he deals with the first. Because like the first position is that like Starfleet's weak, humans are soft, you have no business doing any of this. Like the whole of the Jem'Hadar group is like, all we're going to do is roll through all of your space, kill all of your men, and hear the lamentations of your women, right? Like, unabashed, we're murdering all of you. That's the plan. And part of the episode is about Sisko through his relationship with the first saying, actually, we're fucking serious people, and you have to stop thinking that we're just some sort of sheep that are going to get slaughtered. We're real opponents for you. And that's helpful to establish that because it's going to make them more reserved and more careful rather than just try to engage in sloppy wanton slaughter, which the Federation wants to avoid when they ultimately come to conflict with them. And like they frame it through this scene at the beginning and they kind of bookend it at the end where they part ways. And it's very clever because at first Sisko's trying to establish his authority. He's given him the death row Sisko stare and it's not working, right? He's not bowing. He's accepting the circumstances, but not accepting his authority. And it's a real game of wills.
I guess I was posing the question because I didn't like the matchup because the first is ultimately a low rank grunt. Like he's in charge of the squad or whatever, but it's not like he's real Dominion leadership. Versus Sisko, who is, for all intents and purposes, the primary Federation authority in this part of space where we're going to be seeing the Dominion issues take place. But I guess that further highlights the difference between Starfleet and the Dominion because Starfleet puts all of its eggs in all of its baskets. Like Starfleet is a organization of Renaissance men. Starfleet are heroes. It's the best of the best, and any Starfleet officer should be capable of amazing things because of the amount of training and the process to get in here versus a guy that was grown in a vat and put in there. The Dominion has too much specialization and division of labor. Weyun is a supervisor, but he has massive character gaps. He has massive this guy is not a warrior. He stays up on the ship. Again, like Carter Burke did on the dropship. You've got the first, who is a highly specialized warrior, but he has no like greater leadership potential or diplomatic flexibility and is overly focused to a flaw. You have the founders at the top who are amazing infiltrators, but terrible leaders to the point where they leave people hanging in limbo and they tell people, go do this thing. And their management style is purely or else. There's no inspiration. So you got one guy like Sisko that wears a bunch of different hats wonderfully. And he is forced to interact in this episode with two different avatars of these lanes within the Dominion, these flawed lanes portrayed by very flawed characters. And I think that's another good like compare and contrast moment. So in this case, with these conversations, I think the important takeaway is here's the Dominion's best at brutality, which is the Jem'Hadar, and here is the Starfleet Renaissance captain. And he is able to go toe to toe with this guy on all of the talking points and tension, and prove that like there's a very valid credit to Starfleet's well-rounded approach, and that even when put up against hyper specialized examples of these different Dominion character classes, that he maintains composure and can keep up with them. And that plays into exactly what you're saying. Is like, we're not punks, we're not sheep. You're not going to walk all over us, even though we smile and we're nice. Like, it's time for serious business, and we can be very serious with our business.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe you bingoed the Odyssey on a suicide run and a lucky shot before we really knew what we were getting ourselves into. But here's us knowing what we've gotten ourselves into. Here's actually what you're dealing with. Like you said, these are Renaissance men who are the best of the best, which means they have to be the best at being explorers, at being scientists, and indeed, when it's necessary, fighting wars. That's what we're called upon to do. And while we are the hyper elite of our society, um, that doesn't mean that we lack for the understanding of what it is that we've signed up to do. And that includes having to, solo infiltrate a Jem'Hadar temple with an Iconian gateway with nothing but, stone knives and bearskins, and get the job done if that's what it takes. And like you are saying, there's a credibility that comes with this episode where Sisko clearly has established to the first as the sort of, he's the straight shooter, right? Like, as much as he's a monster, he's not lying. He's not a liar. Like, that's the Vorta's job, right? That's Wei Hun's job, is to be the smarmy car dealership salesman. The Jem'Hadar are here to be brutally honest, both in terms of their use of physical violence and what it is they have to say about it. And if you're able to impart to him, like, yes, okay, got it, right? Like, you're not pushovers. I accept this. I accept the terms of the relationship that we've now established. What does that mean? Does it, like, it's left up to our interpretation a little bit, which I think is wise. I think there's something to be said about Sisko as the guy who has to wear all the hats, showing he's better than the two of these guys. That the way the Dominion is organized themselves has an intrinsic flaw, and the Federation doesn't have it, because they're able to empower exceptional people to be able to do multifaceted things. The Dominion doesn't trust people, so much so that they've bioengineered specific forms of people to exert control. And that has a fragility and a rigidity at the same time that is ill-served and ultimately causes them to not be able to so easily defeat the Federation as much as their technological advantage would suggest that they would. But when we are done with that, we go back to the mess hall where we have the briefing where we're talking about the actual mission. We get some good info. Like, they're in a solid neutronium ziggurat, which, like, as much as I've heard of neutronium as like the unobtainium that is always makes it so that it's completely invulnerable, you would think that they would be like, all right, well, we're gonna get as much of this shit as we possibly can off this planet, coat our ships in it or something. Like, apparently it's in resistant to quantum torpedoes. But whatever.
They just don't build them like they used to, Joe. Right?
Yeah, it's just infrastructure, old infrastructure. It's just over-engineered. And so we've got to infiltrate this place and blow it up at the gate itself. And over the course of this conversation, two things happen. One, we get an incredible line from the first after there's like an intimation about loyalty, and Odo takes exception to it and points out, like, are you saying something about me? And he says, it is not our place to judge a god for betraying heaven. Like, that was unintentionally a absolute banger of telling you so much about the Jem'Hadar in one fucking line. Like, I have no comment whatsoever. You're a god. Your disputes with other gods is not for me to have anything to say about. End of conversation.
But boy, oh boy, infer away. You know, the fact that Odo's defection is known at even a shock troop level. And again, the transmission of information through this organization. Like, there's a lot of secrecy and there's a lot of operational dark. But clearly there's some very good communication in terms of, like, this is the enemy. This is Ben Sisko. We got him in our VR puzzle dungeon when we abducted the crew of the Defiant and stuck him in this VR dilemma generator. We've got a pretty good understanding, or so we think, of how he works. Here's all of our reports, and we're going to give that to all of our Vorcha field supervisors, and maybe they're going to brief, like, you are one of the most public enemies that we have, and we make this information freely available to everybody. There's no top secret on this. Odo. We want this guy back. Everybody knows we want him back. Do not hurt him. He's still a god. Debbie Doppelpopoulos is playing a long game with him, which I think runs a lot deeper than the show is admitting right now. Because again, I think it's pretty clear that if the Dominion wanted, they could show up in force, roll through the wormhole, obliterate everything, and really start. Unless they're fighting another war right now that we haven't been.
Or, like, we're discovering here that their control over things is not so absolute that they're not going to be, they have to be somewhat cautious, right? They have to some kind of plan. They can't just like roll through, have the entirety of the Alpha and Beta quadrants unite against them and then lose a straight up fight, which is possible, right? And if they just act like a tide of locusts, that's what's going to happen. So much of what they're doing is trying to weaken things.
I think that, talking out of my ass, the invasion of the Alpha and Beta quadrants relies on the wormhole. And if they come out swinging sloppy, then it's just going to be destroy the wormhole, cut off the rest of the forces, and now they're going to have centuries to build up this war effort to take to the Gamma Quadrant and fight the Dominion. So that the ability to potentially blow up the wormhole, which Sisko already demonstrated was on the table in the VR puzzle dungeon, is like the real governing factor in why the Dominion hasn't launched an initiative yet. Like that lends credence to that we need to have all of our ducks in a row. So when we come through that hole, we do not stop and nobody has a chance to cut us off.
Precisely. And, you're going to see things that suggest that you've perhaps hit on quite a bit of truth with that. We won't discuss it further for now, but the fact that the Jem'Hadar genuinely have a religious belief in the founders, right? This is where you really, like, we've heard like they're like gods. They've acted like gods. Well, no, it's literal. The Jem'Hadar do see the founders as gods. They see Odo as a god. They do not have the right to question anything that he is doing. They don't harm him. They don't do anything to him. They don't talk about him. They try to. It's like, oh no, I'm keeping my eyes down, and none of that's happening. And Weyoun, as we'll see later, is like a slavish worshiper, right? Like he's you need to come back to the fold. Oh my God, right? Like he's very differential. He's almost weirdly, he's creepy in how devotional he is.
Maybe there's a little bit of hero worship, but Weyoun feels to me like, again, this Carter Burke, I'm paying lip service to the company mission statement, but really what you represent is, if I could be the one that brings back Odo, my life is going to be fucking tits. So yeah, you're a god. I know that you're a defector, and but more importantly, the bosses want you back. And if I'm the guy that brings you to the bosses, I am set for the rest of my many lives.
We finally get to perhaps the inevitable, which is some of these Jem'Hadar are kind of assholes, and Worf is too easy a target for them to go after to start fights. Very consistent Worf character flaw at this point, where the second, who's definitely out of pocket, this guy's like super out of pocket, and talking about how he looks forward to the day the Dominion murders every single Klingon, and to get Worf to react in some way.
So this is Brian Thompson, the Jaw. I believe the last time we saw him in Star Trek was the rodeo bondage clowns that Quark was dealing with for a wine trade route, and that's where conveniently we actually got our first mention of the word Dominion. How fun for him to come back as part of the Dominion.
I enjoyed him the most as the Romulan who was in charge of the whole, we're going to try and blow up the early attempts of the humans to get the Andorians and the Vulcans and the Tellarites to cooperate.
Yes.
But yes, he has a Robert Zadar level jaw that is actually somewhat muted by the fact he's wearing all the thick Jem'Hadar makeup over his face. And yeah, this guy's job is to just be antagonistic as possible towards Worf as much as possible to make a point of it. And That's where we're at here. They clap each other's shoulders very aggressively, and it looks like there's about to be a fight. Of course, Sisko and the first break it up, but this won't be the end of this.
Interesting to see that the Jem'Hadar are so aware of the Klingons and eager to engage them as warriors to warriors, and that there's like a, I think what's going to end up being a very mutual desire, like, hey, we're both about the same thing. And we're going about it different ways, but like we both are self-identified races of warriors.
I think there's a difference in that the Klingons are self-identified race of warriors. The Jem'Hadar are soldiers. There's a difference. The Klingons have a spiritual, cultural manifestation of their warrior nature. They have a code. They believe in honor. Yeah, the ideal, right? Like we know the ideal is not held
Sure,
to all the time, but they have while they love fighting within a cultural mindset and a set of supposed rules of their conduct, both personally and on the battlefield. The Jem'Hadar are a bunch of professional killers who give no fucks. And that's actually at the core of this conflict, because what this guy says is like, I look forward to just like rolling in deep into the Klingon Empire and murdering everyone there. Not glorious battle, not testing my strength against you, not having a drink after we've like tried to kill each other, which is what, Worf struggles with himself as it relates to Klingon warrior culture, which at least gives it some texture. It like takes some of the edge of the violence off. That's part of it. No, not for these guys. These guys are just here to kill you. There's no glory, there's no honor, there's no songs. They don't sing, they don't have art. They have nothing. There's nothing to be remembered in the aftermath of the battle. They show up, they fucking murder you, and they move on to the next guy. And like that, they have disdain, as the second says, for the Klingons, because they see the warrior ethos as weaker than them, because there's all this extra shit going along with it. Nah, we're just here to fucking kill you. Worf's like, okay, like we should fight about that then.
Yeah, but I mean that's still at the end of the thing. Like these are both advocates of violence, and they're coming from very different directions. But like the eagerness for, and you're not going to get it so much through Worf, but I'm sure at some point the Dominion and the Klingon Empire are going to get into it. I'll be curious to see
shout
how
out to Cassandra on Discord, who's the one who inspired me to think of all of that and saying like the difference between the Jem'Hadar and the Klingons are soldiers versus warriors and what that means. So not an entirely original thought on my part, and I want to make sure I credit them. So
nice.
We now move to the trying to get the mission like practice in by using the Defiant as sort of like a training ground where we're doing like infiltration into the Mortal Kombat stage that is the
I want to roll back to Dax and the Jem'Hadar,
because this is like this.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
So we're like, oh, okay, we're infiltrating. We're trying to practice what we think the mission's going to be like, and there's already tension forming because we're changing things up as it relates to the mission parameters to try and test the crew and see if they're willing to basically kill themselves to set the bomb, which like does go against a lot of the Federation protocols as it relates to doing stuff like this. Not that they're not willing to die, but it's like, that should really be a last resort to do this, not something that's like the opening gambit. So like they're Sisko having to basically be in an argument with Weyoun in the first over, my officer's desire to live is very motivating, actually. Like, have you considered that? Like, and ultimately the purpose of this is so that there can be a very awkward moment in turbo lift where the first says, we already know about what we're doing and why we're doing it, the Iconian Gateway, where we're loyal though. Like, we understand I'm here. I want to do this because I want to kill the disloyal Jem'Hadar because they've violated a religious sanction I find quite objectionable. And that's why we're doing this. I understand what we're going to blow up and I'm fine with it. Which again tells you a lot about what the levels of control are of the Jem'Hadar. It's not just the white, it's that they do believe the founders are gods. Like, that's a real thing. And it's hard coded in. I hate these people because they betrayed heaven.
Oof. Oof. Just, what a mandate for violence. What a motivation.
Yeah. You have to think, like, do you seen Dune?
No.
Okay. For those who have, like, the Jem'Hadar are like the Fremen, right? Like, they're religious zealots. They're on a mission from God, right? And a lot of the things that happen with them moving forward, when you really think of them as, like, as the Fremen, as these, like, deeply motivated religious warriors who are here to do as their gods have literally designed them to do, suddenly, their devotion makes a lot more sense. And even those that rebel are doing so because perhaps they don't like the Vorta, not necessarily because they're rebellious against the founders. That's still not what the founders want, because they don't actually care. They're not gods that actually care about the worship that they're receiving. That they just designed them this way so that they would be easier to control, which is part of why they're a bunch of dispassionate goo people, and why they're scary. But it's real. We're seeing how real it is to the Jem'Hadar on a street level. And now we get to the conversation with Dax and I think his name is Virakara, the Jem'Hadar that's assigned to her squad. I also love this conversation.
Again, one of the control methods for the Jem'Hadar is you were going to live in this Spartan military regiment 24/7, and the founders realize that, like, hope is a dangerous weapon. That's the threat that the Federation posed. You can't have these guys appreciating art or culture. Anything that's going to give them a taste of a better life or broaden their horizons is a danger. And now you are taking these disposable people you grow in a tube with the expectation they're not going to live more than 10 years?
They say that to live past 20 is to be considered an honored elder, and none have ever lived past 30.
What a great person to contrast them with Dax, this hedonist, this almost unbelievably long-aged scientist, and let them sit there and compare and contrast, and this guy to get, like, an earful of, like, what could life be? And at the same time, Jadzia's, or Dax, I'm going to say Dax, you're the recoiling and kind of like a disgust and fear of, like, all of the things that make my life worth it. Good food, sex, art, whatever, sleep. Like, we are on complete opposite sides of the spectrum, and I'm looking at you with a pity, and you're looking at me with a
I would say in this case a bit of wonder
that I think would have to lead to not a jealousy, but like a desire to explore, perhaps.
It's really actually quite interesting how the conversation goes. Dax is annoyed at first, but, like, starts getting very interesting information and continues the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to the age question. So, like, he's 8, right? And he says, "How old are you?" And she goes, "I stopped counting at 300. And the look on his face is like genuine shock. And then he says, "You don't look it." And she says, "Thank you." So, like, I know that that's probably in there because it's a funny line for the Jem'Hadar to say, like, to compliment someone's appearance. But let's take it beyond that, is to say, well, they have some appreciation of how incredible that is, right? Like, again, what we're learning about the Jem'Hadar is that they do have full context of their experience, and they are, when they get exposed to someone like Dax, like you said, represents everything they don't have. A semi-immortal who absolutely loves sensory experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jadzia in particular, sport fucking everyone that moves, career scientist, loves, culinary, other culture, experiencing other cultures. All
the stuff you can say about the difference between the Klingons and the Jem'Hadar, you can kind of rub off on her a little bit because she is such a student of Klingon culture.
Right. And then for her, like, to have this conversation and convey, like, no, I'm 300 years old, to someone who doesn't, part of a species that's never seen someone live past 30. And then he knows that that's fucking wild. And then, like, the first thing he thinks of is like, well, you look good. Like, you don't, like, I don't know what, he's like, yeah, thanks, right? Like, it suddenly humanizes them just a little bit for that to be the case, right? Like, that she has the sort of, we don't get a lot of the two of them together, but like when they're fighting at the end and she's like encouraging him to surf, like, you're going to live to be the oldest Jem'Hadar, just you wait, right? Like, we're doing this, buddy. We're making this happen. And he's kind of feeding off of it, right? They're not biomechanical soldiers. They really have personalities, which makes like a lot of the discussion, a lot of the times they show up later, like very interesting to me.
Let's fit them into the greater lore that we've been provided real quick. Because in the episode where they find the guy in the birthing chamber, he has none of this toleration of like, I want to learn a different way. So I think it's reasonable to say that the majority of the genetic programming that these guys have to, and they have to be like, if you're going to be battle operational within 3 months or whatever they say,
Days,
like it has to be front loaded with a hyper focus on violence, regiment, and getting into the lifestyle, right? And then once these things are past this juvenile phase, which is what we saw the one in the Odo Big Brother episode, then 8 years down the road, that genetic grip on instinct, or the instincts not as strong as it used to be, and you're going to start getting people wandering off potentially the prescribed path.
It's why, again, the first that lost his addiction to the white, like, he's a first. He's probably been at it for a while. How old is he? We never established, but probably older than this, right? Maybe a decade, 12, 15 years. Somebody who's had enough time where, like you're saying, like, all of that instinctual stuff is now ingrained, but no longer driving, right? And it's a natural biological process for anybody. Be a young man versus being a middle-aged man. There's a real difference between the two as it relates to what biology is forcing you to think about and forcing you to do and putting you in positions to do. And I'm not just talking about procreation, like just risk behavior, right? Like just aggressive behavior. And in the same way, you see that here. And it's such a fascinating little conversation. Also, like, props to LeVar Burton. Lots of interesting, cool choices in how these kinds of scenes get shot, like having her seated at the helm while this is happening and kind of going low to high with it. Lots of up close, as we talked about, that works most of the time. Also some nice humor, like a little bit of a joke there at the end of that scene. And then we go back to the mess hall.
Also, real quick, there's no female Jem'Hadar.
Correct. That's about to be important. Because we cut to O'Brien, Dax, and Worf talking amongst themselves about, and Odo talking to themselves about what Dax has learned. This is where we find, like, they're having a real conversation about the fact that there's no women. And there's two jokes told in this scene that are actually quite funny. First, Worf, first it's Odo saying, I envy them. And like, everyone's like, you envy them that they don't have women? And it's like, no, it's like less complicated. It's like, they have a very direct relationship with their experience. They don't have distractions. And then Worf like interjects kind of some of the stuff we were talking about earlier of like, Klingons are warriors, but we love song. We love drink. We love celebrating. Living life is part of the warrior ethos. And like having no life is actually like deeply sad and really terrible. And that's where Dax like interjects and like, in Klingon women, am I right? And Worf is, yes. just yes, Klingon women are also fun. And then you see cut to O'Brien, he's like, yeah, Klingon women are fun. Like, oh, Miles, before you met Keiko, what was your life like? What were you doing?
It's life on the D, man.
Life on the D. Was the life on the D a little bit more literal? or was this more of a Rutledge era O'Brien who was getting his best Neelix on, right? Is there a scene from like when you're on the Rutledge and there was like a Klingons that you like ran into and you fucked up someone's quarters with them? Is that does that moment exist for you, Miles? Seems like it does. You seem to have a genuine memory of how fun Klingon women are. This gets broken up by the second, of course, being a dick again. So Chinny McChinnerson decides to come back over and start talking shit. Worf decides he's not going to have any of it. An actual fight starts this time. Sisko and the first show up to break it up again. And this is where you get of dramatic action on the part of the first, but also a lot of good context. The second and Worf admit to their culpability.
Immediately, yeah.
Immediately. They own the, like, we started this. Okay. The first walks up to the second and just straight kills him, breaks his neck. Leaves his body on the floor. And Sisko's like, all right, your turn. And he's like, all right, Worf, you're confined to quarters. Get out. Everyone get out. This is all done. Everyone either go back on duty or go to your quarters. No more fucking, lingering around here. And then that's when he has a real conversation with the first about what just happened. And we already know, like, Sisko wasn't going to kill Worf, right? Like, there's no tension in that. But where the texture comes in is that the first, like, you think I didn't like this guy? I valued him. He was my second for years. I valued his existence. He doesn't go as far as to say it's like, this man was my brother, but it's kind of on the table. There's emotion in his voice. A little bit, but it's there. He's upset over the fact he just killed this guy. But he did it because that's actually what he was supposed to do. That's how we operate. Like, you disobeyed orders knowingly. I gave you an order, you didn't follow it, you fucking died. That's how the rules are. And that tells you a lot about the Jem'Hadar too. Of like, yeah, the rules are the rules, but I don't not feel things.
Also, we follow the rules to a fault because we are in a very lopsided mission. They're going in with a handful of guys versus over 100 Jem'Hadar. And to lose even one Jem'Hadar competent warrior on your soldier on your side prior to going to that, like, nobody's like, hey, we need this fucking guy. Like, what are you doing? You are squandering precious resources. Couldn't you have punished him after? Couldn't you, to skip completely over, like, hey, let's not be savages about this. The punishment culture is so real in the Dominion that we will cut our nose to spite our face. Like, there's no flexibility. That is a huge operational dark spot problem, I think, and I'll be curious to see if that rears its head again. But this sparks a conflict now between leadership styles between the first and Sisko. There's a resentment that the first carries. It's like, I did what was responsible for me, and your weakness, your dude's still there. This is unfair. You're a shit leader, and I'm going to
I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to kill you.
At the end of this.
Even beyond the fact that you're the bad guy, like, I now have a personal interest in killing you because you have personally wronged me by being a bad leader.
Right. You've not reciprocated my
evenly
discipline.
Applied justice here.
Yeah. I killed someone who was valuable to me. You did not kill someone who was valuable to you. And I resent this. Very interesting. After that is when we get the Weyoun Odo scene, which this is the only spot where shooting close works against them. Like, shooting close on Weyoun works. His eyes are weird. Jeffrey Combs doesn't blink very much when he's playing Weyoun. It like makes him seem otherworldly. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they pushed the camera so close to Renee such that you could see the line of where his makeup for his face mask is. That was such a terrible idea.
Yeah,
like, it took you right out of the
under old TVs. I don't know.
Maybe on a standard def television you couldn't tell. But even watching standard def on a high def monitor, you could just see him underneath it, and it just takes you out of the moment. It's the only flaw, as far as I'm concerned, in his direction of this episode. So this is a LeVar win, straight up. It just is a good, big LeVar win. But that camera shot aside, I love this scene for the intensity of Weyoun's pitch, that it's very, like, emotional, that clearly, like, he's here. Like, is it that every Vorta knows this? Maybe. I don't know. But he's clearly prepared to talk to Odo to try and convince him to go back. And then Odo's very like, I know that they want me back. I'm not going to come back. That's not happening. I don't want your worship. I don't want to be part of the Dominion. I don't want to be a founder. There's an implication, of course, that Weyoun knows that Odo killed another founder.
Mm-hmm.
It's not said specifically, but it's like, despite what you've done, right? So that info's out there. We get a quick scene where O'Brien and Dax are talking about writing kind of basically last letters to loved ones, which I thought was interesting. Um, I mean, every scene in this is really worth the discussion, but like that O'Brien has done this 11 times. That he's been gone into some sort of battle circumstance where he felt like there was strong possibility he would die and has left a message for his wife and
11
daughter.
times since he's been married. Who knows what he was writing to his parents back during the border wars with the Cardassians. This is a joke that we've made. You know, this guy's constantly in threat. He's got a family. Like, man, again, how do you, as a father, stay in this career field, this track where it's like, I'm going to die every day? Like, I think this is a real problem for O'Brien. You went from both living on the Enterprise, where theoretically, every time the Enterprise was in danger, you were there to experience it with your wife once you guys were married. So you're not writing those, hey, I might die, I love everybody, and I want you to know how much you mean to me. And as he even says, like, the emotional heart rip of generating that letter for you and your wife. And then you get out of it and you go, well, luck of the Irish. You know, turns out plot armor saved us. That was great. To varying degrees of, like, also injury you're carrying forth, or like 20 years of fucking jail time trauma. And then turn around and be like, yeah, this is a job I want to keep doing. Like, something
that's what makes them special. Like, that's what makes Starfleet officers, Starfleet personnel special, is that they are so the best of the best that they have an elevated duty and noblesse oblige, right? Like, that's part of what it comes. I have to go do the job because the job needs to be done. It's righteous and correct.
I think this is a character flaw on O'Brien, and that there is some deeper damage or something that keeps drawing him back to danger, because this is a guy that had a good life on the flagship with his wife there. This is the guy who should be able to put in for a transfer, say, you know what, I've done 4 years of this. It's too dangerous. I can't have my wife and kid around here. I've almost died 11 times. I've had to write this fucking I'm going to die letter. Like, I've done my duty here. Threat to my family is too high. I want a reassignment. I can do amazing things in another place. I can continue to do my part for Starfleet, but this posting should be someone who doesn't have a family that is going to get one of these letters eventually and ruin them. Like, real red flag here.
And I think you're right? Like, from looking at it from a logical perspective, but I think what separates the 24th century man from our more realist perspective here is these are people who are saying it would be wrong for them to have to step back and allow somebody who would be worse at the job to expose themselves to death just merely because they don't have a wife and kid. That it would be moral cowardice to do so, and that he refuses to do that. And I can accept that that's the difference between this version of humanity and our version of humanity. I agree there might be some personal motivation to the fact that O'Brien has just no quit in him, and he probably sees leaving as allowing all of these compounding traumas to have beaten him. I'm not saying that that's not part of his motivation. The story's been silent on that question as to this point, so I won't speculate further. But I think part of it has to do with that's just how humans are in this post-scarcity utopia, is that they are other-centered in a way that's more authentically true than it is necessarily for us in the 21st century.
I'm going to disagree on this one. If he had a strong sense of friendship to Sisko the way that Dax symbiote did, if he had a religious compulsion to be there for the emissary, like, okay. If he didn't have the family, sure. But, like, I'm not saying it's a fatal flaw, but, like, that's a part of O'Brien in light of 11 I'm going to die messages. Something's up with this guy.
And then we also get Worf approaching Sisko in a very Worf way to say, you know, I'm your executive officer, and I have a duty to tell you that you should not go on this mission because I understand that the First has personally threatened to kill you. And that would be bad. You don't expect me to hold to that advice, do you? Absolutely not. But it's my duty to tell you that you shouldn't, right? Like, I have to do the Riker thing. I learned by watching my friend. I'm supposed to tell you right now to not fucking do that. Okay, cool. I told you. Now I'm going to give you the Worf advice, which is if he does kill you, I will murder him immediately. Like, he will not live to boast of his deeds. Thanks, Worf. That's very comforting. No problem. Like,
All right, bud.
thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Sure. Cool.
Then we get the big speeches before they go on the mission. The victory is life thing. Like, we're dead until we actually succeed in this mission. So either we succeed or we're all dead. These binary choice. There's no retreat. There's no failure. There's either you win or you die. Right?
No, it's either you die or you win.
Yeah, that's true.
Default status is death. You are
Default
already
status
dead.
is death. Only by winning do you achieve life. And then O'Brien comes in with, I'm Miles Edward O'Brien, and I'm alive, and I intend to stay that way. Like, just, come on, boys. Sisko's like, yeah, it says amen at the end of it. Like, all right,
I get why they did it, to lighten the mood, and again, to further compare and contrast the two. But where O'Brien leaves off at the end of, hey, we might cure Ketracel white addiction, the leader guy there is like, okay, you're a soldier. You understand what this is about. I got to go kill all my friends. You can explain it to Bashir. I'm out of here. And there was a real respect between O'Brien and the Jem'Hadar in that moment. I think I would have liked to see that speech resonate a little bit better with O'Brien. I think maybe Jadzia having the flippant reply there would have been better, and I would have gone more for like O'Brien, like, yeah, these guys knows what's up. I'm in that zone too.
I think it's too alien a zone for a human to be in. Like, even someone as battle tested and comfortable with being a soldier as O'Brien is not in this to just like, I'm going to go down there and I'm dead until I achieve victory. Like, no, I'll retreat.
I've been in 300 engagements or whatever. Like,
yeah, some of them we lost.
Like, this is a mindset that is critical. Is you have to go in with your whole ass, because if there's hesitation down there, then you're going to end up back in the sweat box on the plantation. Like, I must neutralize. I don't know. Again, it's not a critical flaw. It's just, I think there's the texture to O'Brien's a little off in this one for me.
They get down there. Oopsie daisy. There's a dampening field. We can't use our phaser rifles. Instead, we will be hand to hand.
First of all, our cloaks work. So those are biological cloaks, obviously.
Yeah, because remember,
not implants. The kid did it. Also, when they're handing the phaser rifles out, that was a pretty good tension scene. Like, has this all been a big ruse? No? Okay, cool. Oh, hey, these are on stun. Turn off pussy setting. We're going to disintegrations.
Yes. Set this thing up like you're going to put it to your chin in the cargo bay. Like, all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we mentioned in the first episode, the giant melee fighting sequence was cut down due to the extensive nature of the violence. Lots of death, to the point where you had the Starfleet officers racking up double-digit body counts of Jem'Hadar, to the point where even like someone like Terry Farrell, who's kind of a normie when you think about it, is like, guys, I can't beat Worf. Why am I killing 10 Jem'Hadar? We need to cut this down. And they, it's still silly Trek fighting. It's always going to be hard for them to do kinetic fight scenes with no budget, with, basic stun actors and extras in rubber suits with rubber swords. Like, this is never going to be high art. But they do a good enough job to show the chaotic, violent nature of it that you get that this is a real close run thing. A lot of the Starfleet extras are fucking dead. They just die. You see their bodies. They're bleeding. They're over. Most of the Jem'Hadar die by the end too. It's
quick shout out real quick too. There was a training sequence in the No, they don't have a holodeck. They had to do it actually in engineering where they go in to set the bomb. Yeah. And we were expecting 3. We've only seen 2. We need to look for 2 for the third guy. And instead we failed the mission because we didn't just set the bomb and suicide, basically.
Correct.
Another potent and a very good scene there, I thought. Continues to reinforce that the Jem'Hadar are a lot more tricky Like the fact that they didn't that there wasn't this strict protocol. Like if that was Odo running it, Odo would have been like, there will be 3, and the catch here is you didn't find the third guy, and that's the fail. Like these Jem'Hadar just fucking get the job done. You're expendable, and by all means necessary. Why did they just have the guns not work?
So they could do a melee fight scene.
It was so bad. I can get a surprise force striking deep and the Starfleet guys having good aim. Again, putting axes in the hands of Starfleet security guys, just fucking ridiculous. You have a small force versus a much larger force. And the one real advantage, okay, here's what I don't understand. Maybe the money ran out. I don't know. Maybe there's something in the Wikipedia, but like Dax is a great sword fighter. Worf's a great sword fighter. Nobody else should be a good sword fighter at all, unless fencing was very popular in this generation. Okay, and you're going to give me a Sulu moment here. This is fucking ridiculous. Jem'Hadar on Jem'Hadar, okay. They clearly have these weapons. They're familiar with them. All these other guys should be like, this triangle axe is ridiculous and stupid. You've created this melee-only environment. Hey, who do we know that is really good in a melee fight? Who refuses to use phasers? Why, it's Bagman, the man.
Who is a bag again?
Who is a bag. Who is also coincidentally untouchable, and none of the Jem'Hadar are going to kill him. So you have Odo go forward in this obtenebrate tentacle form at the front and just slap the fuck out of everybody.
Just like use him as a shield of like just a
shield, just this
the
wall moving forward, like
yeah.
E Honda doing the 100 hand slap and just blasting the fuck, just pimp slapping the fuck out of everybody between him and the bomb site.
The idea of just like this guy, this like he's just in Black Metamorphosis, just with dead arms, just rolling through.
What they showed us, because finally they get in deep enough. Another Starfleet officer dies, and they go, "All right, I think this has gone on deep enough." And Jadzia or whoever takes off her bag and throws it, and then Odo forms. And it's like, dude, what the why? Other than the fact you are very expensive to have on screen doing cool stuff.
Which have you created
a melee situation where you are probably invulnerable, like people can't cut you apart, you'll just goo back together, right? If you were thrown at the wall as a cup and shattered and reformed, people cutting your tentacles off isn't going to matter. No one will even be attacking you because you're a god, and you could probably just walk in there and set this bomb and get out, let alone just slap the fuck out of everybody as we get there, set the bomb, withdraw, and then those guys either get blown up or they wake up and run away or whatever. Like, why are you a bag? Why are you not participating? I understand you're expensive. I needed something.
Yeah. Something that like interfered with the morphic matrix of the changelings or something. Like
being on this planet's fatiguing. I don't know why. That's why there's no founders on this amazing fucking site we've found.
Yeah. Something like, I understand that the practical actual answer is this effect is extremely expensive. It's why it wasn't even in Paradise Lost, as you recall. It's why you did a Vulcan neck pinch. So they can't do it that way. But you do need to spackle for the fact that you have the fucking T-1000 over here who could probably solo this whole problem. Because
you can't shoot guns. Like, I get he's in a bag because whatever, if he gets shot with a phaser, he explodes. But like, this, I'm going to tell you right now, is probably going to be my weakest shit award.
You're making a good case for it. You're making a very good case for it.
There might be some like bad episode stuff we've watched this season that I've already like forgotten about, but like this is just, hey, by the way, for whatever reason, the Jem'Hadar down there have a stun baton and like there's orders to capture you. Or so, like,
yeah,
there's some reason why you need to be a bag other than the fact that you love to be a bag. Bag man. And it's what's crazy to me is like we've made this joke about being bag man.
Bags. Yeah.
He always is a fucking bag.
He is. He's always a bag.
Does the ILM or whatever fucking visual effects studio, they like bag morphing is on the value meal, and they can do it like much cheaper than.
It's the cheapest effects I can give you is that Odo keeps transforming from a bag into a goo pile.
And this is a classic shapeshifter thing, right? But like, oh fuck, phasers don't work, and then like Worf looks at Odo and is like, bro, can you like become a Mekla? Can you become a Batleth? Like, we really gotta. I'm great at sword fighting, and I get you don't want to like flex. Like, could you just turn into a prop we've got sitting over in the room next to the studio? Yes, Worf, I will do that, so I don't have to save the day and save all of these countless lives.
I do like on the plus side, Worf just being a straight assassin in this fight scene is fun. He's got the mechlith, so he is just murdering Jem'Hadar left and right. Like,
did he bring it down with him?
Yeah.
I didn't even see it.
He's got like the short sword thing, the mechlith, and
I thought he pulled that off another jump. Whatever. The whole fight sequence. This is one of the worst. This is just. It is ridiculous that Starfleet is able to get any kills beyond Dax and Worf, who are hobbyist sword fighters,
and Sisko from pure violence capacity. Maybe O'Brien.
I'm willing to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. The rest of these Starfleet guys, fucking ridiculous. The number of bad guys to good guys, and you are attacking the bad guys who have like a defensive posture already. Mm-hmm. You've lost the element of surprise. Like, this whole thing is just ridiculous and bad. And then Odo not to like this action sequence is the weakest shit front runner for me.
The action sequence ends as they get to the actual gateway. And of course, we have the moment where the third guy comes out of the cloak, just as they had discussed was possible. And Odo stands in and takes a shot from his sword so that the first doesn't get got by surprise. And ultimately, obviously, they kill that guy, set the bomb, and are able to escape. And the first is rather stunned that Sisko would save his life, given he made an explicit threat to kill him earlier. And Sisko made it clear, like, I'm a Starfleet officer. I gave you my word that you are under my command, and that means you're under my command, which means I will do anything to preserve your life. That's how this shit works for me. Which is really like a good moment to seal up what happens there ultimately at the end. And they get out, they blow the gateway. The last of the fucking Starfleet goons beams down with Weyoun, who has the container of the white. The first immediately obliterates him after he puts the white down. And they're like, all right, we got what we needed.
Hold on. I need this joke I put in my notes.
Okay.
How many Starfleet died while he was sandbag manning?
How many dead as a consequence of your bag fetish, Odo?
No, you're just sandbagging. He totally just sandbagged that fucking fight.
He did.
The amount of resentment for the remaining security towards fucking the human sandbag man, the sandbag man.
I do love that the goon that like that transported down with Weyoun does not react to him getting obliterated. He's just like, I'm just gonna stand here like nothing weird happened. Like, that's I'm just paid to stand here. I'm not paid to actually have a facial expression right now. But Odo understands what happened. The first killed Weyoun because Weyoun questioned his loyalty, and this is apparently how they settle that dispute. And they have that moment where they lock eyes with each other, and he's a little softer towards Sisko. He's like, okay, we did this. It worked out. I respect you. Next time we meet, we're still going to be enemies, though, just to be clear. But the whole I'm going to kill you thing, yeah, okay, I'm letting it go. All right. You were right, Captain Sisko. I get it. I get you. I understand you. There's something to be gained from this. We're done.
Do we see this guy again?
We do not. We do not see him again.
I would like throwaway dialogue at some point from Weyoun down the road or whatever. Yeah, we sanitize that entire squad. They had too much interaction with you. They represented a bad think threat that we could not allow to spread deeper into the Jem'Hadar, so they were all sacrificed. We had to sanitize that. You guys are too dangerous. Me, Wayun, Vorda, we're slimy and shifty. We can dance around you guys, but these guys, it's like again, it's so easy to go back to Hugh, right? The Borg, Iborg, and the threat that individuality represents to the enemies of the Federation. I hope they talk about sanitizing this squad. Like, that would be so fucking brutal and on point.
I don't think we ever get direct dialogue reference to this thing ever again. From that perspective, this does come up. I will say there's actually an episode in season 6 that's quite the plot actually has a lot to do with Sisko and the experiences he had in this episode. But unfortunately, in terms of the continuity of these specific characters, that is something that, like, if there is a flaw in the Deep Space Nine continuity, is they don't typically follow through on some of this stuff as it relates to the Jem'Hadar. Like, we don't ever find out what happened to the first that cured himself of the white addiction, and we don't know what happened to these guys either. But it doesn't take away from what I think is overall. We also don't know what
happened to Thomas Riker.
True. So, but overall, like, this is a good episode. Weakest shit fight scene at the end aside, we spent 2 episodes on it because it's very dense, filled with very interesting scenes. Definitely a LeVar Burton win by a lot. So, like, we often say he pissed somebody off and he got handed all of the bad scripts. Not so here. In this case, he probably delivered on. I think this might be the best of his Deep Space Nine episodes. He's got quite a few left. This is actually only halfway through his run. He has 10 total. So we'll have to judge how much better or worse what has to come is. But very much worth the watch. Very interesting. Worth taking our time on. So we're not stopping with the banger train, though, next week, Peter. What are we watching?
Am I good to read here?
You are good to read here.
We're going to go into season 4, episode 24, The Quickening. The Highlanders make their appearance. Written by Naren Shankar, directed by Odo. In Universe Date 2372, Dr. Bashir works to rid a planet of a plague that was sent by the Dominion as a punishment for resistance.
This is one of my favorite episodes of Deep Space Nine, because it actually delivers on, like, why the Dominion is actually a threat. This is one where the stakes are revealed to all as to the existential nature of the crisis that they're about to face. And it's a great Bashir episode. Really does a lot for his character and what he goes through as he deals with the circumstances that he's in, and it comes up enough afterwards where, like, this echoes afterwards. So great. We're really, like, getting some really good content here at the end of season 4 as we get ready to kind of kick off into the actual war that'll begin in season 5. So I look forward to reviewing it with you, sir. I look forward to our listeners joining us once again, and we'll see you next time.